Hey, welcome to Automat Live Coding. This is a stream where we write Automat. Automat is a game automation utility very similar to AutoHotkey and other macro utilities. So macro means that it can be used to record macros. So this is a macro recorder and an example macro. Moves my mouse like that. This is a timeline that I just recorded, and it moves the mouse, and then it presses the left key. See this blue bar? This is key press. We do not need that, so I removed it. When I play this macro now, you can see that my mouse makes this funny shape. An automat contains a lot of objects that can be combined together in whatever way you want, basically, to do stuff. I can set up, for example, timeout, so you can see my hands. Yeah, macro moves by itself. And there are a lot of unfinished threads, loose threads that I started and didn't have time to wrap them up properly. So one of them is assembler. It's a very core object in Automat. It's actually usable right now, it just looks kind of bad. So Automat allows you to access registers. So this is like quite literally a register, CPU register. And here you can see the value which is stored in the register, and you can write it and you get access to tons of instructions. So this one will flip the lowest 8 bytes of this register. They flip. Now, those instruction cards, they are fine, they're okay. This instruction selector, it needs more work. This, yeah, it could be improved in many places. The light, the interactivity, the animations are not quite there. This one is really unfinished. So this one needs a lot more work, a lot more polish. So we will do all this. No worries, no worries. So during the recent stream, we stole a cool trick from Linux compositors. So Automat has, recently Automat is progressing very, very fast, much faster than it used to. And I'm super happy about this. So lots of things are changing. And in the last week, we stole this trick from Linux compositors. So on Linux, every window can contain many surfaces, and all of those surfaces, they form stacks. And those stacks are kind of like nestable. This is like a tree of stacks of surfaces. And this compositing model is, first of all, it's very simple, because a surface which is just composited, it's just an image which is blended on top of some background. Super fast, super cheap, there is nothing to think there. No shaders, no anything like that. So I rewrote the Automat renderer to use this trick. So now most of the objects in Automat use subsurfaces. So for example, this object, it's a palette of many, Leptonica related objects for image processing. I'll show you. This is an example image. And this is, and this is how it would look if we tweaked some parameters on it. Anyway, each of those objects is rendered to its own texture, and the texture of its parent is rendered below them. So they are not really copied onto the parent texture, they are composited in the compositor. A very cool feature, to appreciate it, you kind of need to work with compositors and you need to experience the performance issues. But trust me, this is very nice. Automat accelerated, like all of the performance problems that I used to have, it basically disappeared. On the emulator, it now works fast. It's like software rendering, like works now in Automat. Automat can render in software, and it's you don't even need GPU to run it. Anyway, that was a fun trick. And I talked about Linux compositors. This is because Automat includes a compositor now, so it can start other programs, and those programs will be properly nested. I can fire up a terminal, right? It's using a different keyboard layout, but you can see I can see the sources of Automat here. Can I close this? Yes, I can. And also fire up a command like this one. Now I have no idea why these VLCs here. Anyway, so this is essentially a program running completely within Automat. This btop. We enable 3. Like that. What do I enable? Okay, I don't have many features. I can't resize this, unfortunately. I need to work on that. Anyway. Automat can also start a text editor, so we can edit Automat from within Automat. It's still missing a lot of features, so I'm not moving the development of Automat into Automat yet. That's the plan for the near future. So Automat has all those loose threads. It has unfinished assembler. It has a bunch of unfinished Leptonica-related objects. It has an unfinished Wayland compositor built in. So what are we going to do today? Naturally, we are going to start yet another thread of unfinished work. Or actually, this one is a small one, so we will probably finish this one. It's a code cleanup. The plan for today is to document a primitive that Automat already uses, which is called tracked_ptr. Essentially, it's a sort of a smart pointer that can be used in some situations to track the lifetime of objects. And the feature of this smart pointer is that it will clear all of the references which are pointing back at it. Pretty much. Yeah, I just remember the cool trick. Ah, never mind. Anyway. So we'll create this new pointer type. I call this mortal PTR because the name really captures the fact that the object which is pointed by this pointer can die at any moment. And when it dies, it is being set to null. And mortal PTR has this nice structure where the mortal part is a very nice name for the member or for the member or the base type that the mortal object can implement. Mortal PTR is the PTR. So this is the kind of objective for today, to create this new class. And in the meantime, I have one more thing, which is to review the code. I still have some kind of tokens for AI, so I should probably ask AI to do more work. But first I want to review the code. I recently removed the Wayland protocol backend used by Automat. So it's not using the official library anymore. It's using an internal of Wayland implementation. I am very proud of this implementation. It's very efficient and it gives you some nice properties. So it's very, like in Python. In Python, there are a lot of Pythonic interfaces. So this interface is very C++-y. It puts the data inside objects and keeps them in memory. It allocates them efficiently in colonies, so they are not scattered using system allocator. Objects are actually allocated one next to another, so we can even iterate through them very efficiently. And it really minimizes, basically eliminates dynamic allocations from the Wayland protocol. We have a couple vectors, a couple colonies, and that's it. There are no other dynamic allocations. And it's also very fast, because those pointers are stable, we can cache the pointers, we can do pointer following, no hashmap lookups, no funny stuff like that. It's just, you set it up in memory, everything is just one pointer away. Very efficient. And everything is compiled statically, so there is no virtual polymorphism, stuff like that. When you have a Wayland interface, this is a Wayland interface, and this is a request. So on create image. So clients, Wayland clients that are started by Automat, they will call this method, which will be invoked here. It's not a virtual method, it's going to be just invoked statically with the parameters read from the client's request. And whenever we call those functions like protocol error or fill DMA buffer, when we call this function, again, there is no virtual call, we are just jumping into... Actually, this one is... it's an inline, it's not a generated code. There are more generated. For example, this one, xdg pop-up on reposition is apply and publish. Yeah, maybe this one, configure. Yeah, here we go. So when you call this with some arguments, it first calculates how much space it's going to need to send this to client. It grows the buffer, the output buffer, writes all of the values. Those writes are anonymous functions from the anonymous namespace, so they are inlined. And after we exit from the request handler, we flash this and send this to the client. It's super efficient. We're using strings. They have the vector semantics of memory allocation, so they grow efficiently. The buffer essentially stops growing after some time. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. Performance is really not a big issue for Wayland libraries, but the performance of this one is pretty decent. I'm happy with this. There is one potential improvement we could make, which would be to start a separate thread per client. And I've calculated that this would save us about almost a microsecond of each message. A microsecond, it sounds like a tiny amount, but Wayland exchanges quite a few of them. So I think over the runtime of the compositor, it would probably amount to a couple milliseconds overall. Probably not worth it. Maybe EPOL is actually the better alternative here. Anyway, I need to finish reviewing this code because I asked the parrot, my stochastic parrot, to do some tweaks here. and I need to investigate them. Those are single line changes. This is a completely new file. Okay. I need to review all of this file. Okay, let me start with the header. Header is going to be simpler. Okay, I think paths we should store in the path class. Path class has some extra utilities for working with paths. Socket name, where do we put in socket name? So socket name is just the file name. I think if we switch to path type, then we should be able to use this. Yeah. Allow this. Yeah, we even offer a const char conversion here. Let's try switching this. I'm surprised there are no issues here. Okay, so path used to have an empty state. I think we can allow this path to have an empty state. I think this should be fine. Ratoro. I think the default constructor, yeah, it initializes the path when empty state. So this is already kind of represented here. We do not need this. Okay, we have this function here called with stem. I think it would be nice if we had very similar for with extension. We need to find the slash. That's good. Then we are finding the last dot. Fantastic. I think both of those methods have an issue. What happens if this stem end, I mean, is lower or equal stem begin? And this is not a problem for our current code, so I'm leaving this as a to-do. And this is not going to include the dot. Position where to start the search. Okay, so I'm using dot plus one. So we want the dot, obviously, and some extension. So now here, there we go. And I think we can use this handling here. Okay, before I start commenting, let me see if this still works. Yeah, I think I changed the path and this is forcing a rebuild of everything. So we created this socket now. See, we have a lock. So now I will close it normally. And the lock is still there. It's not good. Should not be there. Let's see. This is unlinking one. What? Oh, I know. Yeah, I messed up the code. What? Okay. Dot. There is definitely no dot here at all. So this path should be active. I think maybe it was cast to bool or something like that. Again. Hey. I've put a space instead of a dot. Okay. Explains a lot. So I close it. And the lock is gone. Ooh. And if I kill Automat in a very unpleasant way, with Ctrl C, both the socket and the lock stay, but you can then restart it, and they are adopted and cleaned up. Ooh. Let's see. I was reviewing the header. So now that we have a socket path, we do not need socket name anymore. Socket name. Is it used? Interesting. I'm going to remove this. And do it like that. Okay, this useless logging. Let's remove this. And this name we need it. I will just remove this line. No reason to convert everything to paths. Everything should still work, right? I need to test command startup now. Check this out. Automat source code within Automat. Okay. Nice, very nice. This next serial is unused, so goodbye. Okay, this serial has some uses. In timer pending various UI mutex. These are suspicious. Friends counted. Adoption mutex. Adoptions. Hey, this whole part, it needs to be probably rewritten. Maybe it's alright, but I am suspicious of the stuff written by AI. It tends to do stuff in a very dumb way. Surfaces are raw and cleared in the surface distractor. What? Let me check surface destructor. Yeah, surface does not have a destructor per se, but maybe there is something here. Oh yeah, they are cleared in the destructor. I think Mortal PTR, which is the point for today's stream, it's probably going to be an even better replacement, because it will automatically clear those pointers. Yeah, I do not trust this manual cleanup very much. It is, on one hand side, this is the more efficient approach. It uses less memory this way. So we don't have to track all of the pointers. In the DMA buff format table. Interesting, so this format table is what's passed around. I think memfd. Or table entries. What? So it's storing what, 16 times 4, like 64 bytes. It's allocating a file descriptor to pass 64 bytes. That is a strange protocol. Like passing 64 bytes is totally doable inline. And this hasn't changed really. We have this, protects us against. This is just memory cleanup. Was missing. I don't think we need this. Yep, it's nice. I'm not sure why this is called scene node. I wonder why. Sometimes it's using std vector, sometimes vec. Anyway. Let's submit this in a good state. Really nice, really nice. Okay. Extra comments written by AI for things that are described by the Wayland designers. I don't think we should try to replace their documentation. This XDG surface There's a fantastic documentation already. I'm not sure how this version is used. This is another thing that I think could maybe cause problems. Look for this seek term, you will see that this stuff is documented in like 6 different places, right? 7. It's kind of too much. Maybe let's rename this seek term timer. Now we can remove this comment. Instead of stop, we should say terminated or something like that, because this is the name of the signal. Seek is just the prefix. This is like how in the C world you namespace things. Hey. sends an immediate terminate. Interesting.
$7.72 says,
I've changed my opener. It's no longer I am a living being.
It's this guy now, right? What's the new opening?
We are conscious. There are things that appear in consciousness and cognition, which maps to laws that govern interactions between entities in awareness. Now this is axiomatic to me.
Yeah, what you're saying, it reminds me of philosophy called cosmism. I think it was Ben Goertzel who... Let me find this. Yes. Yeah, exactly. This dude. He has a very similar of approach. It's an old book. Oh look, it has some chapters on artificial intelligence.
Awesome. Didn't know about this. We'll check it out.
Yeah, here in philosophy there are a lot of problems that, if you investigate them, it turns out that some of the things that we take for granted are kind of like an illusion, like social contract. Not social, I mean, like things that we invent to make the world around easier to grasp. For example, there is the cloning problem. If you could clone a person, that opens a whole can of worms. And Ben, he imagines a future where all of those absurd philosophical situations could happen, and he tries to come up with some coherent kind of approach, coherent philosophy that would still work in this future where people can clone their consciousness and a lot of philosophical problems become real. Create virtual worlds and so on. And he has this nice...
Intelligence is seemingly emulatable, but consciousness is by definition impossible to create from within consciousness.
There are some funny experiments that could be interesting, like consciousness likes a good definition, but the assumption that most people hold is that people are conscious. So this is one thing we know for sure. And one fun way of putting this to test is to imagine a situation, like there are all sorts of philosophical experiments that you can do with consciousness, like philosophical and practical. There's the practical experiment of, for example, the split brain people. If you call there is a piece of axons connecting the two brain hemispheres, and some people have this damaged, and that their brain functions as two brains, kind of. So the halves of their body, they move independently. So this split brain people, they kind of demonstrate that consciousness is not atomic. It's possible to kind of split it. And you can communicate with two parts of their brain separately. Like if you give them 2 pens, they can write 2 different things, simultaneously. And they can have separately different kind of...
I only know for certain that I am conscious.
Yeah. So this is an experimental observation. It's that consciousness, whatever this is, we do not have good definitions, but we know it is not an atomic thing. It can be divided. And the 2 divided parts are probably less conscious. Because if you continue this process of cutting it in half, first of all, it's not clear that if you cut a single brain hemisphere in half, it would be conscious. But, it has to end somewhere, this process, for sure. Because a single neuron is almost certainly not conscious, right? Most people wouldn't say that a single neuron is conscious.
Corpus callosum severing. Interesting.
Yeah. So Ben, in his Cosmist Manifesto, I think he says that there is a gradient of kind of complexity in beings, and there is a smooth gradient of complexity from like stone to a human being, and there are probably beings even more complex than people. And I do not remember the terms that he used because it's an old book. I read it long time ago. But he approaches this problem of consciousness as a spectrum where, ants and birds and so on, they form a kind of consciousness gradient. I think it's a very nice, coherent view. And he has tons of very nice ideas in his book. So it's a fun one.
Actually, the corpus callosum severing doesn't necessarily prove that there's no atomicity of consciousness. My initial opinion is that contents that appear in consciousness can be made fuzzy by severing the callosum.
I mean, there is no... the wording is important. There is definitely a point at which most people would stop calling creatures conscious. They would become like viruses or something like that, like an inert physical object without any will or determination or anything like that. But maybe what the split brain shows is that it's possible to combine consciousness, maybe. Maybe you cannot split them forever, but maybe you can combine them.
So it could be that awareness is atomic, but contents of consciousness has strange physiological dependencies. and effects breach.
One component of consciousness, which is definitely an important part of it, is the attention. Attention is the only component which is very nicely emulated by language models. They actually have an attention mechanism, and they can kind of, I think because they produce language and because they have the attention mechanism, they are already very convincing in terms of being consciousness. But there is one more thing, something else that's still not there.
Because there's no proof that the left hand that points to the correct label is conscious, it could just be mechanistic pointing.
Interesting. They should ask the brain which doesn't control the speech, the part of the brain which doesn't control the speech, whether it's conscious. It should point to the right label, or ask it some, I don't know.
Intelligence is physiological, but consciousness is not.
But if the two halves, if one of them was mechanistic and the other was conscious, then how can you tell which one? Maybe the part that controls language is the mechanistic one.
That's fair.
Okay. Okay, the name of the method is sufficient here. It even says where it's called from. Advertise DMA buff and bind. I guess it's called from bind, right? Yeah, called from bind.
YouTube.
Yeah. It already works. It's actually usable. You can type in it. Hey, it's not feature complete. I don't know why it crashed now. Let's try it. Z. Oh, I broke something. Let me try PT. Also broke. Okay. What did I change? I just removed some comments. Or maybe it's because I replaced std vector with vec. Or maybe command launcher. It's not getting the correct path. Looks like I messed something with EGL. I broke it literally just now. says Wayland 1, this is good. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So the fastest way to solve this is to ask the parrot to do this. And I will continue the review. Okay, I basically just removed comments from this file. Now this is the bulk of the code. Instead of us should really be using the LVM din cast or something like that. Okay, I will clean this up, but first I want to fix this. Maybe I will do this differently. I will collect pieces. Yeah, I actually was thinking that maybe this path continuously would be the better idea. Yeah.
I don't mind if intelligence is mechanistic deterministic, but I would be heartbroken if morality is deterministic too.
Morality is deterministic? What would non-deterministic morality be? Would it be something like the right thing depends on the roll of the dice? Like non-deterministic morality?
Oh, I just mean I want to be the author of good things and author of avoiding bad things. But if everything apart from consciousness is deterministic, I am just here to observe. I don't like just observing. I want to participate and do stuff.
Oh, even in deterministic world, you still have autonomy. There is a very common kind of confusion about this. It's that, if the world is deterministic, then, everybody is just following some kind of hard-coded mechanisms, and there's no way of ever doing anything different. But it stops being true if you have the capability, if you have an internal model of the world. If you have the internal model of the world, then you can plan ahead. And you can, even in a deterministic world, your fully deterministic mental model allows you to gain advantage and, predict how the world will look like and adjust your actions accordingly. So you're not a ball rolling down the hill. You can see that there is a hill or a cliff ahead of you, and you can stop. Like, intelligent beings have this capability. They are not purely deterministic. They can actually have some internal model of the world, and they can behave in clever ways because of that. And this doesn't contradict determinism in any way.
Yes, sir. That's what I love to hear. My deterministic model of the world is the correct model, and therefore my actions affect things correctly.
Yeah, and perfect kind of ability to predict what will happen is It's almost like the ability to travel through time. If you can look around and kind of anticipate the future. Yeah.
Too good, thanks.
And there is some sci-fi that explores this idea. There was, it's actually in Dune. In Dune, the main character, I hope I'm not spoiling this, but there is an important character in Dune that gains this ability to perfectly predict future, but not only seconds ahead, he can also do this, but he can predict the future, hundreds of years ahead. So he sees the kind of future of the universe. And the funny thing, he says, is that because he can do this, he has no freedom anymore. He knows how the future will evolve, how the universe will evolve, and there is only one thing he can do because of this. Which is like the optimal kind of way to proceed forward. Dune is a fun book. So it's a fun idea, but it kind of spoils the book is not as exciting anymore, because the guy just says, oh, I know the future, I will just execute it. I know the perfect future, I will just execute it. And it only starts in like second or third book.
But he still needs to focus to implement those things. So how does it mean he doesn't have fun executing it? Because executing it takes work still.
So, can I spoil it? I guess I will spoil it. Because the movies are coming out, but very slowly. Let me see.
Lol, sure.
Yeah, so the guy decides that there will be a war, big war in the galaxy, and the only way to avoid this war is to become a spiritual leader of the people who wage this war, and basically conquer the whole galaxy. And to become this spiritual leader, he has to go through like a series of painful.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, he has to go through a series of painful. He has to become a sort of a martyr, like for those people. So he has to lose the sight, which actually for him is not a problem, because even when he's blind, he still knows about everything that's happening around him. He's kind of like almost like a cheater. Like when there are bullets flying nearby, he knows where to step to avoid the bullets and so on. It's like this level of, future seeing. So he sees stuff that's going to happen thousands of years ahead of time, and also, seconds in the future. Oh yeah, and he calls this major war the Jihad.
Nice, I might actually read the books now. Have you read the books?
Yeah, but they are going downhill very quickly. The initial books are incredible. They are very nice, full of nice motifs. But then, you know, when it becomes this, when the prophecies and, you know, religion take the first plane, like when they start playing a major role, the books kind of stop being as nice, in my opinion. And I think the books have been written by the Frank Herbert initially, but then also by his children. And there is a difference, gap in quality. They are just not as good as the original ones. Yeah. Lego Dune. Oh. And the games are good. The games from the Dune universe are very nice. I really like their strategy games. Okay, this is some hairy logic. Let's see, what did I broke?
Gotta work now. Nice catching up, math. Have an autonomous day.
Thanks, see you around. Okay. Swap. It's changed. It definitely is compiling. Oh yeah, I just had to recompile everything. Ah, seems to work now. I think I've read code like that already. This work? Who knows? Who knows? Here we are building this file descriptor. Okay, it carries a file descriptor, so this file descriptor is reset. Yep. Still helper functions only. Like this whole mechanism could be removed. We could instead use the Automat's widget layers here. We'll save something like 50 lines of code, maybe. Sure if it's worth it. I think a lot of those functions can be inlined. Let me do this. Does it still work? Nope. We'll undo this. Yeah, absolutely all of them should be inlined. Yeah, I think a lot of those distractors will go away once we switch to those mortal pointers. Very clean handlers. This is what I want to see more. More the helper functions like that. I'm removing this because it's messing up the documentation, the official documentation. Yeah. I can And I think that was it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. One final test. There we go. Seems to work. So this is I think I can map it into the previous code. Wasn't pushed. Okay. Okay. So while the parrot is pecking at this, I can start the work on the mortal pointer thingy. So we already have this thing called tracked PTR. This trackable PTR base. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is just so generic code. So we can have a single implementation for all types. I would like to extend this mortal PTR. So this is done. This is done. Lot of green stuff. Very nice, very nice. touching. Oh. Thinking about some potential stretch goals. So I think pointer size is probably just as important as the base mortal size. memory layout. We already have the one that I wrote long time ago. So this must be virtual. And must store a pointer into some of those. How can an entry look like? I mean, it stores a linked list, essentially. List of references. So how a reference can look like. References must be a linked list. So each reference needs a next pointer. It would also be nice that would be incredible if we can do this, if you can be a member. If it's a member, then it doesn't need to have a vtable anymore. But then it needs to be a template. I can get rid of the Wayland protocol documentation for now. I think this being templated on the member offset is not a bad idea. Oh, but each pointer also needs... Actually, I think this would have a fixed name. Yeah. So the idea is that somewhere within this object we have this mortal list, and pointer points at the original object, but template will essentially know what is the set. Yeah. How to do those other things? How to do cleanup functions? This is possible. Cleanup function. How would a custom cleanup function look like? Cleanup function doesn't necessarily need to store the pointer. All of those functions, they have mechanisms of storing payloads already. A move only function is 40 bytes. And that one is 32. The problem with this is that I do not have type information. Actually, this is aligned to 8 bytes. Eight bytes. We have 3 bits used. I can encode the type of the next argument in the lower bits of Frankie's not going to have any pointers anywhere. And this is going to be just a simple std function. Here I could even store funcref, I think. This function ref, is it present already? think regular function will do here. It doesn't have to be small. Oh, there is also a trick. We can use this as this XOR trick, which allows us to store a two-way list within a single pointer. Actually, store it like that. Okay, now when it comes to vectors, So we just store which vector is it stored in? I need to imagine how would this other object think about this vector. What vector of mortal pointers could be optimized? I'm not sure if it can. It's just a vector of regular mortal PTRs. There must be a more efficient way to do something with a vector here. The only optimization I can think of is maybe having 2 vectors instead of 1. One would store next pointers and the other would store just PRs. Actually, when you think about this, mortal vec shouldn't really be a vector, it should really be a colony, kind of. It has fast iteration, it has pointer stability, yeah. Okay, I don't think vector really makes sense here. Yeah, this design, I think I need to sleep on this before I finish it. I need to think about this for a day, and then I think everything will clear up. Yeah, I'm not going to just sit on stream and try to figure this out. Yeah, I think I will kind of cut this now. I think maybe tomorrow I will do this. So on Friday we should be able to do something else, something not related to the lambing in Automat. Anyway, yeah. So this is it for today. See you in, I guess, 2 days. Yeah, on Friday. Yeah, see you around. Bye-bye.